Okay, so in this video, I'm going to demonstrate the valve timing process that is normally done with pre-war Rolls-Royce and Bentley engines. The process more or less applies to all of those engines, including Phantom 3. And so anyway, you're going to need to access the area for doing your valve clearance adjustment. And if you look on the flywheel, you'll see that it is marked with the clearance. In this case, this is a 2025, and it's marked as 20 thousandths. That clearance can change a little bit with the other different models. So we adjust the number 1 intake valve to 20 thousandths. Make sure your feeler fits in there nicely. So when you go to adjust your valve, normally, as I do valve adjustments, I like to have the other valve on the same cylinder completely opened, and then you can adjust. You can be sure that this valve is on the back side of the lobe of the camshaft, and you can adjust it. Because both valves are not open simultaneously. And there's very little overlap in these engines. But you do want to make sure that the neighboring, joining valve is also fully opened. So yeah, so we stick our 20 thousandths feeler in there, and we have that set. Then we find on the flywheel the marking I-O, which stands for inlet valve open. So we spin the engine around until the I-O mark is completely up. I normally use a flywheel turning tool. Okay, you can hear the compression building and releasing. So I-O. Okay, I-O is completely up. All right. Now we set the camshaft into a position to where that is just starting to take up this 20 thousandths clearance. Normally I turn the camshaft using a wrench on one of the drive nuts, and you turn the push rod. Excuse me. And as you turn the push rod, you'll notice that the 20 thousandths slap will take up. I can see the neighboring valve starting to come up. And I just missed it a little bit, so I'll back up a little bit here. Okay, so I can turn the push rod and it's free. Take up a little bit more. Okay, so now it just nipped up. Just going to back it up a little bit more again. And I can just barely turn the push rod. So it's So that's your guide of where it should be positioned. So now we have everything set to where it should be, and we can put the slipper flywheel on in position, and hopefully we'll have the teeth meshed in the proper area that will allow for proper valve timing. So valve timing is critically important for the running of the engine. If you're even a half a tooth off, then your engine's not going to perform as it should. It may seem quiet and smooth, but then when you want to go to high speed down the highway, you won't have the power available. It just won't be there. And I say half a tooth because Phantom 3 has two places for keyways, Woodruff keys, and there's a half a tooth difference between them. The other pre-war cars generally don't have the half a tooth setting, so the 6 cylinders you would be one tooth off one way or the other. And being one tooth off one way or the other is too much. So you got to have the right mesh of teeth. Now, when you work on a mass-produced engine of other makes, the valve timing is set by aligning marks on the gears or the chain, whichever the case may be. But Rolls-Royce didn't do it that way. They wanted to be sure that you had the absolute best valve timing available, and so that's why they wanted to work you through a process of setting the valve timing. There could be a little bit of a difference in the indexing of where the Woodruff key is or the cut of the gears, and those little bit of differences could make a difference in how the valve timing could work out. And there was a lot of different areas where you could be a little bit off at each one, and so if you were just aligning the marks, you might not be at the optimum valve timing setting. So that's why I believe Rolls-Royce handled it that way. Now you'll have some people and they'll say, as we take apart the engine, we'll mark the teeth. But in that case, you're not 100% sure, first off, that the valve timing was properly set. Somebody else might have been in the engine before and positioned it in a bad setting. So, and also trying to maintain a mark on the tooth is very difficult to do. So normally what I always recommend, and I always do, is to go through this process as we are doing today. So now that we have the camshaft in position and we have the crankshaft in position, now we can work on putting the slipper flywheel in position. On the small horsepower cars, you cannot put the crankshaft damper or the slipper flywheel on while it's fully assembled, because the nut that retains it onto the crankshaft needs to be accessed and tightened. So once you have that on and tightened, then you can put the rest of the assembly on. Okay, you might have to bear with me here a little bit. Sometimes it takes me a couple times to get the right mesh of the teeth. The thing that makes it challenging is you have a helical tooth. So you're not always quite 100% sure where it's going to end up because it's sliding on this angle. So sometimes I'm off the first 2 or 3 times, or first time. There's other times where I'm lucky and the first time I do it, it's right on. So okay, so we have those things in position. So now we are going to put our crankshaft damper on. Let's see here. A lot of the engine components have what I call zero marks. You'll see them engraved in some of the positions on certain things. And I see it on this one right here. So chances are that this is to go on in this position. But as I say again, we have the angle of the teeth. So hang on just 1 second, I'm going to get a marker.
I'm Jessica Carter. Thanks so much for being with us for the midday show today on WRTI. Stay tuned for Mr. Kevin Gordon. He has Dvorak's cello concerto and other great music during this afternoon show. I'll be back again tomorrow morning at 1 o'clock.
Okay, I'm back. I have my handy Sharpie with me. So I'm going to mark the tooth. So we want it in this position.
If you answered insurance executive Charles Ives, that's correct.
And it's going to be,
John Alden Carpenter, vice president of George B.
looks like it's 2 teeth over in that direction.
You get extra points. John Alden Carpenter.
So we will try that position and see how it works.
Eventually becoming vice president. Fortunately for the budding composer, the firm was largely run by his brothers, and Carpenter had enough free time to devote to his music.
Okay.
On today's date in 1915, Chicago Symphony.
So now we have the teeth meshed, so now we need to.
A suite entitled Adventures in a Perambulator. Even more, you know that a perambulator is a baby boat.
We need to get these center splines engaged onto the flywheel, or crankshaft, sorry. Okay, so we have that on. We're going to put the crankshaft damper nut on, not dead tight, but tight enough to know that we have it pulled on far enough. So we use a special serrated tool for that. Tighten this up a little bit. Okay. So now we have that in place. So now, of course, things have tightened up here. So we're going to rotate around. I'm using this to also rotate the engine. So we watch that inlet valve open up now. Now it's starting to close. Now we're going to start seeing the exhaust valve open. Compression feels good. Okay, exhaust.
Music of the 19th century Italian clarinetist and composer Ernesto Paganini begins our Thursday afternoon together. Here is his Adagio and Tarantella. On the clarinet is Christopher Nichols.
So, and then we know right when the exhaust valve starts to close that we are going to be starting to work on the intake valve. Nope. I have a feeling I'm pretty close. So I'm just gonna back off a little bit. and come up some. This is one of those things where it's nice to have a second set of hands to help you out here. So we have a loose push rod. That's taken up. Okay, so the push rod is taken up. So now we go back to where our I/O marking is. Here on the flywheel. And I'm going to say that I am probably 1 tooth early. So I'm going to take the slipper flywheel back off and change the position by 1 tooth. And hopefully that will be where it needs to be. Yeah, so we take the nut off here. And we use our puller. And in this case, it's a left-hand thread. I'm going to need to get a ratchet for that. Okay. Let's come off here. So the center hub is unfortunately trying to find its way off, which you don't want.
Here's something you've been waiting for. It's a test. The emergency alert system.
push that back in place. See why that's happening. So it's just the mesh of the teeth that's doing that. So if we turn the cam a little bit, maybe that will encourage it to come off. Can't remember ever having this problem before. Alright, so luckily my Sharpie mark is still on there. So let me see where I might have gone wrong. Alright, try moving it over that way. Okay. Since I know I'm in the ballpark, I can just move one tooth one way or the other. Cut there. Line up our splines. Okay, and on that goes. This is a right hand thread nut. So now we do the checking process again. Okay, exhaust opening. Exhaust closing. And I'm going to need to get a Band-Aid. Excuse me. Okay, so now we're back at the valve, setting the valve timing, and I was just at the stage of turning the engine. Had to get a Band-Aid. All right, so this is our second check.
The Schindler's Building the Two of Richard Strauss, a performance by Daniel Barenboim.
I can feel it starting to nip up. nipped. And now I come back here and I see my IO mark is right up, right where the pointer would be, straight up. So that would indicate that I have the valve timing set properly. So I guess I was a tooth off initially, and I turned it, went another tooth. I forget which direction exactly, but then now I'm dead on with it. So now when you read the literature and the books, which I'll flash up in this video of which ones are helpful, it'll say that if your mark does not line up perfectly, that it is better to be late than early. So if you're early on your IO mark setting, then you need to change it. But if you're late, you can be late up to 5/8 of an inch. Any more than 5/8 of an inch is not good. But again, you'll need to look at your literature to make sure that it is the 5/8 on the model you're working on. So I'm just going to do another check just to be absolutely sure that I'm on. Okay, exhaust valve opening. Exhaust valve closing. Nope. I already went too far, so back up a little bit here. Turn the push rod and I go back here and look. And again, my IO mark, inlet open, is lined right up. So therefore we have the valve timing now set.